I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Hey guys, welcome back, and today I'll be looking at Blackpink's discography. This could turn into a series, or it could simply just be a one-off video. It really depends on how people think about it, and I'm not just ranking the songs, I'm genuinely looking at everything they've made and seeing what I think of it. Now, there are going to be 3 sections to the video. The first section is entirely just me looking at all of the stuff they've made. The amount of the types of releases they've had, the amount of songs they have, the amount of special remake tracks, etc. There's a little bit more than that, which is kind of somewhat of an achievements thing, but more so looking at basically the song numbers, not the music video views. Then we're going to look at quality, which means how many genres they've really delved into in their discography, as well as the complexity of the instrumental, the formula of the songs, etc. Because you will often notice a pattern even in your favorite group songs that ensure somewhat of familiarity. And in the last part of the video, I will be genuinely looking at everything and saying my opinion on their discography. This doesn't mean that in any way that a group's discography is bad or inferior. This just means I personally either don't favor it or don't find much in it. We are now going to be having a vocabulary section about music, singles, and all that, so you can understand what I'm talking about in the video. Let's get started. Before we get started, though, we do need to do one more thing, and this is going to be a quick vocabulary rundown. So, 1 to 3 songs is a single/single album. You'll see this in groups like Everglow and Blackpink and more, and some very popular soloists like Sunmi frequently use that. Number 2, EPs. EPs stands for Electronic Playlist, and the EP is around 4 to 6 songs. These are also marketed as mini albums in the K-pop market, but I will not be referring to them as that because in the Western market and around the rest of the world, they're called EPs. And even by some artists, they'll say, hey, I released an EP, guys, instead of in K-pop where we say they released a mini album. A full album is anything over 7 songs, but anything from 7 to 8 songs is often marketed as a mini album, but by Western standards can be marketed as a full album. And in K-pop, anything over 9 songs is considered a full album by fans and considered that by marketing teams. But I will be referring to anything over 7 songs as a full album in this series, or potential one-off video. We'll see how this goes. Now, since we've gotten our vocabulary lesson out of the way, we're going to get started. Blackpink is a South Korean K-pop girl group assembled of 4 members under YG Entertainment. They debuted in 2016 and since then have released 26 songs. Now, for Western fans or fans who are very new to the genre of K-pop, you may, or more so the industry of K-pop, you probably think that that's a good amount of songs to have over a 4-year period. Well, for a K-pop girl group, let alone a K-pop group, that is quite an underwhelming number. Most people by now would have 40 plus songs at the least. This gives Blackpink the reputation of almost an undeserved title at the top. Blackpink is the biggest girl group in the world and in K-pop. Their numbers are unmatched and unparalleled by other groups underneath them, if I'm being honest, and a lot of fans are completely, from other groups like Twice, Red Velvet, Dreamcatcher, Luna, are kind of jealous isn't the right word, more like people tend to dislike Blackpink because of the lack of content and lack of promotion they're put out while their faves are consistently promoting and trying to get fans, and they never reach near level numbers, popularity, or public appreciation. Which is definitely a reason, even if it's not the best reason, and you should never hate on a group. Blackpink is frequently known for this status of being an unachievable group, and they promote more like Western stars, honestly, than actual or international stars rather than actual K-pop stars, which receive a different rep and reputation. Blackpink seems more personable to the Western market because they're multilingual and several other factors. But their lacking discography is also what's made them so popular. A lack of content and people hyping Blackpink's music up has led them to be able to get away with releasing formulaic, underdeveloped, and repeated types of music and instrumental types. Despite the fact that they may have different instruments used, the same formula is applied to an instrumental, and it's the same with member distribution. One member, although different lyrics and different instrumental, once again, Jennie will probably start. There will be a similar empty chorus. Very few Blackpink songs have a full chorus, I'm being honest. And they all have the same producers, usually. So Blackpink is known for this infamous cycle of formula and a lack of effort, still somehow getting them to the top. And that's why Blackpink is so hated by most outsiders, I would say. Alright, so if we're looking at what really keeps people coming back, though, isn't just the drama or the scandals or this unachievable ability record or this just general multilingualness. It's more so the girls themselves as performers. If Blackpink is on stage outside of a music show and they are on tour or at Coachella or wherever, they are immersed with the audience, they are entertaining them, they are having fun, they are with their fans. That is when Blackpink is at their best. That is when they are at their strongest. Their stage presence is almost unbeatable by standards of the K-pop industry. And don't get me wrong, there are smaller groups who could rival them in that category, but at the moment, Blackpink still has a standout stage presence no matter what you tell me. On music shows, they do what they're told. On stage, while they still do what they're told, they still have a lot of fun with it, and you can see members going out of their way to do different things and have their own mind about things. Like, for instance, all the girls stopped doing the choreography for As If It's Your Last, except for Rose, who's still going and has no idea they all stopped. I mean, is that not a moment where you just see an enjoyable time? I think the girls enjoy being with their fans more than they enjoy performing on a music show, so I definitely love watching them on tour, and I think that's what brings people back to Blackpink, is their ability to give an audience a memorable experience that'll last you a lifetime. Okay, so now we are going to be looking at Blackpink's releases, types of them, and the numbers of those they've done. So we'll start off with single. 2016, the group put out Square One, their debut single. In 2017, they released As If It's Your Last. In 2018, released Kiss and Make Up with Dua Lipa. They also released the Japanese version of D4. Jennie released her solo single project. We had in 2019 the D4 remix but Japanese. In 2020 we got Sour Candy with Lady Gaga. We got How You Like That, and then we got Ice Cream with Selena Gomez. For their EPs, Blackpink has released 5. They released Square 2 in 2016, the Japanese EP Blackpink in 2017, Square Up in 2018, Kill This Love in 2019, and also in 2019, Kill This Love, the Japanese version. Blackpink actually has 2 full albums. In 2018, they released the full Japanese album Blackpink in Your Area, which has 9 tracks, and in 2020, they released the Korean/international full album, The Album, which has 8 tracks. Not counting Blackpink's 3 live albums from tour, you have a total of 17 releases. Counting them, you get 20 releases over the years in terms of any kind of capacity. Now we'll be looking at their special releases. Foreign tracks, stuff that's in English or Japanese, stuff that's special remakes of others, solo projects, etc. to see how much, outside stuff they've got going on. Alright, first up is the collab section. Blackpink has had 4 collabs over the years, 1 in 2018 with Dua Lipa for Kiss and Make Up, 3 in 2020, 1 we've got Lady Gaga with Sour Candy, we had Selena Gomez and Ice Cream, and we had Cardi B feature on Bet You Wanna. Now we're moving on to their special remake tracks. We have 5 of those. We've got Whistle the Acoustic Mix, which was released in 2016. In 2018 we've got the live remix of Stay. In 2018 we also got the reggae version of Really. In 2018 we also had the live remix of D4, and then we had another D4 remix released in 2019. In Japan, they've released 5 overall releases. They released in 2017 their debut EP called Blackpink. In 2018 they released the single D4. In 2018 they released Blackpink in Your Area. It was a 9-track full album, and in 2019 they released the D4 remix single. Now, in 2018, we had 1 member solo project dropped, and that was Jennie's single called Solo. Now, at the moment, Rosé's is in progress and is likely to be a solo album, so she's not out yet, so I can't put her on there. And we have 4 English tracks in their discography. We have Ice Cream with Selena Gomez, Bet You Wanna with Cardi B, Crazy Over You, and Love to Hate Me. Fine to edit here later. I wanted to go ahead and say one thing. They've had actually 6 Japanese releases, counting the Kill This Love EP. Although I can't find it on streaming sites, you can still purchase it on any K-pop merch store, or anything like that. So it is real, it is out there, I just wanted to go ahead and correct that. So there are technically 6 Japanese releases for Blackpink. Altogether, in the special quantities category, Blackpink has 31 tracks that are out there that are considered special outside of their Korean discography. That include Japanese, English, solo projects, anything like that. I will not be counting the So Hot Black label remix since it's a cover technically speaking, and I'm also not going to be counting the Miguel cover they did as well, since both of those are just covers, not original music. So covers will not be counted unless covers will not be counted unless I'm trying to show something about the group and what they could potentially do or what genres they could delve into, but I will not be counting these covers, although I do think they show the members' rapping and writing ability quite well. Alright, I have a complaint for Blinks. Why do we value numbers over genre influence or finding out what's actually in Blackpink's discography? If I'm being honest, I can tell what instruments are in there. I can tell you when the fourth count is, but in no way can I tell you what exactly is all in Blackpink's discography. I am not the musical genre expert. You should not trust me on what the heck you think is going to be in your fave's discography. So I'm going to be honest. I would really like it if people who are Blinks took the time to listen to Blackpink's music with good musical backgrounds and go, this sounds like this. I don't want to have to trust a Wikipedia article. I want to be able to trust a genuine source, not a Wikipedia article. Someone with a good musical background who can identify a genre easily. I can identify a few off the top of my head, but that doesn't necessarily mean I have the expertise to actually say, hey, this is this is that. So if you are a Blink and you could do a deep dive so I can maybe remake this part of the video, where I just count down or talk about some of the genres in Blackpink's discography, then that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. Genres that Blackpink's discography is obviously known to take inspiration from are hip-hop, electronic dance music, otherwise known as EDM, trap, and pop. They're also known to qualify as a subgenre as pop, referred to as teen pop, that has a lot of urban type of styles within the music. I could go on a lengthier explanation, but I really don't feel like it. They're also known to have quite a bit of acoustic inspiration within their discography, but they have also dipped into electropop as well as bubblegum pop in the past. Blackpink's discography isn't the most diverse in K-pop, but it isn't bad either. I would say they're just like any other artist, where they typically target demographic and they use what music is popular and going to sell well and is going to play to their demographic the best in terms of genre inspiration. It's nothing complicated or complex or beautiful, but it's not bad either. It works for them, and it goes well with their voices. When it comes to formula, Blackpink's lack of quantity in music makes their formula far easier to notice, but their formula is also extremely repetitive. They have an instrumental, lyrical, and member line distribution formula that YG has compiled that makes their songs successful, memorable, and familiar. A little too familiar, repetitive even, some say. And I have to say, this is probably the biggest downside of their discography overall beyond quantity. Blackpink have an entire are lacking in a musical identity. Well, they have one, but it's so formulaic and repetitive that it gets old quickly with their title tracks especially, but it's even used on B-sides and entire mini-albums, for instance, Square Up. In part, it's used for things like the lyrics and where they'll go. It's used for lyrical formulas for choruses, usually being the same sort of repetitive chorus, empty drop kind of thing you've got going on, or Jennie always starting it, Lisa nowadays having the majority of the raps, Jisoo and Rosé singing the same parts in the song in order to give it a new vibe and identity because they're the vocal line. That is a good example of YG's formula. For Blackpink, this works though, but the problem is for the fans it doesn't. Fans often complain about the repetitiveness of the music because everything sounds the same. D4, Really, See You Later, and Forever Young, all on the same mini-album, Blackpink's first mini-album, all have the same formula. But this really wasn't pointed out till 2019 when Kill This Love came out, and YouTubers like Mira started really criticizing the formula that Blackpink was using, and that their producers were consistently trying to push out for them. Does this mean what sells for Blackpink is bad? No, but it gets old quick, and fans are tired of it. When fans are thirsty for content, they're basically willing to accept anything, but they're also going to tear it apart just as viciously and quickly as they consume it. I'm being honest when I say this is probably the worst part of Blackpink's discography because it allows them to get criticized the most. Alright, another major bashing point for a girl band as big as Blackpink/girl group, Blackpink is known for using the same producers over and over again, and that contributes to the formula, but another reason is the lack of member participation can also anger fans. Fans of groups like BTS or Red Velvet will know that some of the members are allowed to either create their own music or contribute to the music itself. You're going to see groups like G-Idol where this is a huge thing, or Everglow where E was allowed to help write for their debut single. The problem is that Blackpink isn't allowed to contribute to most of their albums. The only album they've been able to contribute to, or at least publicly be credited for contributing to, as lyricists, is for the album with Lovesick Girls. I'm being serious. A lot of the songs Blackpink come out with aren't actually written by the group or allowed to be. A lack of member participation against groups like BTS makes Blackpink's discography seem shallow, not as deep, and doesn't come from the heart. Obviously, then again, this makes them seem less relatable and less personable. They're just putting out music for the sake of it, not for it to be meaningful and touch the hearts. They're not putting out their story. Now, of course, in solo projects like Solo and Rosé's own solo coming up, we know that Rosé is participating in the songwriting process. And old Blackpink videos, like Jennie talking about how she partially wrote Stay and how she has a songbook full of songs, it isn't entirely impossible that Blackpink just goes completely uncredited for songs they write for. We'll never know what songs Blackpink have fully written for or contributed lyrics to at the very least, or potentially arranged or composed with producers. We will never know because YG does not let this out of the dungeon. It's one of the things besides Blackpink and about Blackpink that they will not let out of the dungeon is their credentials for writing and making music. It's really sad because Blackpink is for talented, passionate girls about music who can clearly write their own raps and lyrics, but aren't allowed to do so due to likely their brand. Other reasons could be that they're women, or just YG CEOs not having faith in them, or not wanting them to be seen as songwriters and more as fashion models. Or influencers. It really depends on how you look at it, and this real reason for having them lack the credentials to their own music is unknown. But it's also one of the main reasons Blackpink is criticized for their discography. Is Blackpink's music bad? No. It's pop. It's marketable to a mainstream audience. It's not always going to be what the niche or the critics want, but it doesn't mean it's inherently bad. Blackpink does have great songs like Kick It and Hope. Blackpink's music and discography is limited by contractual restrictions and YG. They're limited by Teddy, the producers behind the door. The stuff we don't get to see, the stuff we don't know that goes on, Blackpink is limited by it. Blackpink, while they could take a risk and still be successful, are not allowed to take a risk because they are YG's money-making cow. YG knows this, and they're going to keep them as the money-making cow. Blackpink's discography will likely not expand the most. While I do think they'll have better quality over their last few years as a group, I don't think they're going to be a completely outstanding discography unless YG just decides to throw me out a window and tell me, guess what, you're wrong. I hope fate does that. Overall, Blackpink's music is meant to be marketed towards the teen girl demographic. I know there are tons of fans who have outgrown Blackpink but still check in to see what they've produced because they actually like the girls. The girls aren't allowed to evolve or change their music because of YG. YG wants to keep their image because it fits YG's style, but it also markets towards an international girl demographic. So I'll have to say, I think Blackpink, as long as they stay with YG will have a limited and restricted discography, but I think once they get outside of that image, or if they choose to, I think they're going to have a very unique and interesting one that's very Western inspired, sort of like SM, but not as R&B inspired, I don't think. I think Blackpink would have a very interesting discography if they were outside of YG, and I would love to see what the girls would make if they self-produced an entire album, at least lyric and genre-wise chose what they wanted on it. YG, please be listening. Let these girls create their own music. Let them do it, because they can. We all know they can. You're just keeping them in the dungeon. Take them out, and let them run wild. Blackpink's discography will still be enjoyable and nostalgic for many people, even when they're gone. And that is a huge thing. Their legacy will still continue. But one thing I hope is that Blackpink, before the end of their career is allowed to make their own album. Just allowed to sit down and do whatever they like. Now, that's the end of the video. If you'd like a series of this, please let me know. This took a long time to make. It was very difficult to make, and it was a lot harder to find the genuine information I needed. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and have a great day.